All right, this might be a bit of a hot take. Not only do I think it is okay for young developing athletes to overreach with their weight selection within their training, I think it is beneficial for them to test the waters and try things that are maybe a little bit outside of their reach. And for the sake of clarity, when I say young developing athletes right here, I'm generally talking about kids in the middle school age group. And I think this applies to various areas within training. But just for the sake of this discussion, we'll keep it to resistance training, weightlifting, because that seems to be the one that everybody's afraid of. And I'll set this up by first touching on what I think the role of weightlifting should play for an athlete in this age range. It should largely be educational and formative. Sure, we hope that they get stronger. That's great if they get some gains, but that is not on the top of my priority list with this age group. It should be used as a tool to learn and build their training IQ, building their work ethic, learn proper technique, learn what things feel like, dial in their gauge for their decision making, and build a positive relationship with training. Again, any strength gains are great. Building general strength is great, but those things are all priorities that come before actually trying to drive adaptations with a little kid. I also don't think that weightlifting needs to be the main character or the main focus for athletes in this age range. That can be a whole other discussion, but it's not something that they need to be afraid of or need to avoid altogether. So if we view weightlifting through this educational, formative lens for these athletes in this age group, part of that is making mistakes and learning what a good decision is versus what a bad decision is, testing the limits, pushing up against the line, maybe crossing the line a little bit, in the name of forming a more solid training IQ and making better decisions down the line. And in my opinion, it's good to let them make these mistakes and make these slight miscalculations when they're smaller and they're dealing with lighter weights and they have bodies that aren't capable of producing these big forces where things can tear or things can break. And they're still Gumby bodies, they're super resilient. And before anybody becomes outraged by this and throws a fit, there are parameters to this and there are smart ways to do it, and there's dumb ways to do it. So I think one of the first parameters to doing this in an intelligent way is just being a good coach and knowing your athlete. Are they ego driven? Do they generally make good decisions? Can they self-correct? Are they going to take the feedback and use that to make an informed decision on the next rep or the next set? Will they bail out when it's appropriate to bail out, or will they push when it's dumb to push? So yes, you're letting them deal in a bit of chaos and overreaching a little bit, but you're supervising and you know your athlete and you're there ready to step in if and when you need to step in. It's also important that they go into this exploratory phase with a solid foundation of what good form feels like. They should have a good idea of what proper technique is for whatever the desired outcome of the lift is, so they can feel when it becomes compromised. The athletes that I do this with will almost always, after a set where they maybe overreached a little bit, will come up to me and say, I think I did a little bit too much there. I didn't feel like my form was great on that set. So they're not going into this blind. They have standards and they have an understanding of what good is, so they can feel when they start to get too far away from that and know that they need to make a better decision on the next set. Exercise selection is also an important consideration in doing this in a smart way. Loading up a kid with more weight than he's ready for with a barbell back squat and seeing if he can survive and stand up out of the hole is probably not a great way to go about doing it. But things like goblet squats, dumbbell rows, dumbbell bench press, provided we're spotting them so they don't drop the weight on their face. Even a kettlebell deadlift or a trap bar deadlift. People freak out about deadlifts and, God forbid, a spine rounds a little bit. Things that are easy to bail out of or just put down if it's too much weight are the exercises I'm more apt to let this happen and let this exploration happen with than something that is dangerous or could compromise the kid's safety if it proves to be too much weight for him. And it goes without saying that this should obviously be supervised. If you do all those other things the right way, you shouldn't find yourself in a position where you have to hit the panic button and step in, but you should be there to step in if you see a form or a technique that you don't like that looks a little bit too dicey and a little bit too risky. Obviously be there to pull the plug if and when you need to. This also isn't necessarily something that I force athletes to do. It's not something that I'm pushing them to do. I'm not encouraging them to go do more weight than they're ready for. But if they're curious and they're exploring and they want to try heavier weight, they're into the session, they want to see what they can do, I'm inclined to let them try it out, provided all the other boxes of the things I just mentioned are checked off. And I think it's a good time, a good athlete to do it with, and a good opportunity to learn. So I'm completely in favor of letting kids go a little bit meathead in the name of exploration and education, provided they're paying attention and learning from it, and we're having conversations between sets, and they're taking in that data and downloading all that good information so that they're forming better training IQs, building a good relationship with training, and setting them up for better decision making down the line.